this section we are going to talk about measurement of texture using sensory methods, which is lot more different than what we have begun discussing now in terms of the instrument measurements. A lot of you asked me about how you can connect with me. I also provided my email address. Please take down the email address and feel free to connect with me, and I will promise you that if you email me, I will connect with you immediately. At least I will say I got your email, and then I will try to answer your queries or whatever questions you might have. Okay, measurement of texture, we talked about so many times now, so we cannot forget the texture anymore, right? It will be in your mindset for years to come, but the bottom line is we are looking at the sensory evaluation. I don't know whether you know this or not, like food engineering, food processing, food chemistry, refrigeration, frozen foods, protein study, carbohydrate study, or anything you can think of. Sensory evaluation is also a scientific discipline. There are departments, their bread and butter is sensory analysis, only sensory analysis, and they do get funding, and they do get students, grad students working in different aspect of their sensory analysis, and they do research in sensory analysis. That is amazing. As an engineer, a scientist, sometimes we don't appreciate, or myself I may not appreciate that much, but they deserve the credit also, because their thinking, their way of approaching things is different than the way of approach the scientists or engineers would do, because it's a great discipline, and it involves the social aspects, and also it involves the psychology of the human beings. So it's a lot more. It's not just like that. You collect the sample and put it in the instrument, you get the data, you analyze it, and then you do whatever you want to do with that. I mean, either you publish it or use it for product developer or anything like that. But their way of doing things and thinking is also totally different, because they are dealing with the human responses. Our humans are everywhere. I mean, our thinking process is totally different. Each human has our own thinking, because we are all different. There is no two humans created equally, right? There could be six same resembling humans throughout the world, but still their thinking process will be totally different. It's a unique, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of critical thinking to evaluate their responses. So basically, human responses to the composition of food, drink. So they use a lot of senses. For example, appearance. By looking at it, we all make a judgment, right? Just appearance, we make a judgment. By touching it, we make judgment. By smelling it, we make judgment. By compressing it, we make judgment. And feeling it, temperature, and also taste. Sometimes the last we do taste, right? How many times we buy something and then we just like that eat? If it is a new product, we do all these things. If it is a continuous product, same product you are trying to do, you may not do everything, just do the taste only. But if it's a new product, we go through everything. We don't miss any one of these, right? So we are very sensitive about these things, and we make sure that we get the right product what we want. So some of the things I listed here, color wise, we use our eye to measure the color, and also surface characteristics, we use eye, also tongue and the finger How many times we compress the apple and oranges and a lot of other vegetables and all? All the time, exactly, all the time. Because we want to make sure that we get the best product, best in the whole market, right? We want to get the great onions, we want to get great brinjal, we want to get great apple, even for that matter, grapes, banana, right? Even though banana may look like ripened banana, until otherwise we feel it, it's not ripened. We have to feel it. And that's how we do things. That's who we are. Uh, Shape, you can look at the eye, you can see the shape. You can also touch it and then feel the shape. Taste, nose and tongue. I'm not sure where the nose playing a role in terms of taste. It plays as. Can you give me an example?
Any food, like we like to relish a hot food. That is because of the volatile aromatic flavor compounds only. That when we get the olfactory sense through our nose, then we relish the food much more than if we get a cold or something like not hot food.
But how is that different than aroma then? Odor and aroma is there. I mean, you are combining aroma and odor to the taste, but it's no, no. I know aroma. You have to feel. I mean, you need to feel it in your nose only. That's the only way you know that whether this biryani is going to taste good or not. Aroma and odor, I agree. You need to use the nose, but for taste, where the nose comes to play, I don't know.
I felt it in citrus fruit. I felt.
Oh, citrus. Yeah. Oh, okay. That makes sense. So if you have oranges, if it is matured orange, you want to smell it and make sure that it it's matured enough so that it may be sweet inside. Right? I mean, you cannot, if you are going to taste it, correct, you cannot eat directly, but at least you can smell it and then see whether it will be sweeter inside. Yeah, same thing like mango also, right? Some mangoes, if it ripened, you know that mango is sitting there. There are some mangoes, if even if it is ripened, they may not give that much odor out. So you have to smell it so that it will be ripened, right? Yeah, that now it makes sense. And then elasticity, we use tongue and finger. It's well known, right? I mean, elasticity, you just need to compress it, so elastic or viscous kind of thing, or softer or harder, and then you bite it and then put it in tongue and then eat it like that. Hardness, roughness, roughness. Roughness, you can touch it and see fingers, but I don't know roughness, tongue. How rough the food is? Okay, can you give me an example? I'm asking you because I'm ignorant. That's why I'm asking you. It's not that I know the answer and then I'm trying to test you. There's no exam, I told you. So,
To me personally, I don't know it happens to others or not. But when we have some toast biscuit, and if it is a much rough biscuit, our tongue, after having much of that toast biscuit, our tongue gets somewhat hard.
yeah, okay, I see.
We can feel it that it's a rough biscuit.
Okay, yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, at least I should agree with her because what she's saying is when you have a rusk and dal, toast bread, toasted bread, so if somebody want to have a crunchy toast, then they have to bite it and then see whether it is whether this toast is has a whether they are going to like it or not, dislike it or like it, and that's one way to see the roughness. Crispness, tongue, finger, and also ear. This is a big deal for me. So what is that ear going to play? So if somebody is going to bite it, like for example, if Nivedha is going to bite something, so that sound is going to play a role, and then I'm going to think that okay, It's very crispier chips, a crispier product like that. Okay, so it's getting interesting, right? Because when you think about that, when you just read it, you probably question yourself. But when you're discussing with other people, they bring a different perspective, and then you try to understand a little better. Sensory properties, again, previous slide told us everything, pretty much everything. External appearance, eyes, taste, odor, texture, touch and flexibility under the texture. Eye, external appearance, color, shape. Taste wise, basic flavor, odor in the mouth. And then basic flavor you can say sweetness, salt, sour, bitter. Metallian, umami. What does umami means? Oh, okay. One by one. Oh, okay. Okay. Metallian is kind of metallic taste. And then you all familiar with the metallic, right? Metallian? Metal taste? Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I take medicine and all, I'll get some metal taste when the medicine is very bad. Well, from my point of view, when I say bad, it's not really bad for everybody, but sometimes I get the metallic taste. So I think that's what they meant by metalline. So, any questions on these sensory properties? So, what is texture in terms of sensory analysis? Texture is a sensory property that is perceived primarily by the tactile sense, touch, but in some cases is perceived by sound, like crispiness, sight, and kinesthetics, sense of movement and position. So, interesting to hear these things, So, texture is a major determinant of food acceptance. So, a lot of food companies use the sensory evaluation panels to check the texture of their products for both product development and quality control purposes. That's what they do. I mean, it's just a fact, it's given here. It's a food attributes like flavor and appearance, which affects the total sensory experience enjoyed by the consumer. So, it's not just a texture only, everything else plays a bigger role. That's what we are trying to understand in terms of the sensory analysis. So, when people evaluate that from touch or tactile sense, so it's a measure of the product quality based upon the information received from these activities. So, basically they start with the first bite through mastication, swallowing and residual feel in the mouth and throat. Its use is based on standard scales for the mechanical parameters, which are also employed for the selecting training the panel members. So, what they are saying is, before you even select your panel members, you need to understand what is their scope and what is their background, whether they have all the things in terms of their sensors and everything. So, those kind of evaluations, pre-evaluations we have to do, and then that's how you select the right panels before you even train them. Make sense? Because if there's a lot of people available, right? So, but we want to make sure that we recruit people who will be available to complete all the evaluation needed, and also they will have a similar skill set, so that they will be able to evaluate very thoroughly and give us the accurate information. As much as instrument is giving, we would like to have the same thing for the panel also. How many panel members we would like to have for testing a product, sir?
For trained 5 to 10 members, and for semi-trained like maybe 25 to 30, and non-trained means more than 100.
As much as the more the merrier, but at the same time, if you are going to train them or at least pseudo train them, so then you are going to put more resources for them to get trained, So that time you probably don't need thousands of people or hundred of people. But if it is just something like this classroom, we just ask them to do tests, evaluations, which we can do that. I mean, because they don't have to be trained, they will be regular customers like thing, and then everybody can give their opinions. And whenever you have the random data like this, the more people is better, so that your final final outcome or final decision making process will be much better. That's what, because if you have 5-6 people, if they don't have they didn't know what they are doing testing, then the evaluations may not be very appropriate, more useful. So for panel members, for textual analysis, panelists are selected based on the ability to discriminate known textual differences, meaning that if I tell them to do springiness, hardness, fracture, gumminess, cohesiveness, like the resilience, I need to make sure that these panel members know what we are talking about. At least we need to give them training in terms of this is what this means, this is what I am doing, so that they also get trained, at least they will have the same language down the road. We need to make sure that they get interviewed to determine the sensing attributes, whether they will be able to, all of them able to sense everything. If they are color blinded, obviously you don't want to ask them to test the color, right? Test the appearance, if they are color blinded, right? Is animals are color blinded? Animals are color blinded or no? Huh?
They are nocturnal. Animals,
Uh-huh.
they are nocturnal.
They are nocturnal, okay. So they are color blinded, right? Yes. Is cow is color blinded? It is. They are color blinded. They cannot differentiate between black, white, red, green, blue, like that. I don't know. I don't know how many of you. Yes, no. You don't know. Okay. I know for sure because I listened to one of the talk show host, and he was referring that in one of the Rajinikanth movie, where he is playing playing a role with Ramya Krishnan. You guys know these actor and actress, right? Okay. So there is a bull coming to hit the Ramya Krishnan, and then Rajinikanth will come and then he will throw the red shawl at the bull, and then bull will run away. Okay, that is based upon the director's point of view. Okay, so but that's not true. Bulls cannot run away by looking. They don't know what is a red and what is no green or blue, like that. So, but it's very important that the panel members should know the difference between different colors. They need to be trained using variety of products. It's not just one product you want to evaluate them. Different products they should be evaluate them. Because if you are going to keep employing the same panels down the road for whether 3 months, 6 months, or a year, like that, and they need to be trained with a variety of products, because industry these days they don't deal with only one product, because their bottom line will not be economical if they just rely upon one product. Everybody have multiple products, maybe 50, 100 products sometimes, maybe not 1,000 products, but at least 5, 10, 15, 20, like that. So maybe it should be introduced to underlying textural principles, mechanical forces, strain, etc. They need to know what is this, what the principle is involved, what mechanical force means, what is stress means, what is strain means, so that they have understanding of what is this means. Otherwise, if you just ask them, give me springiness, they probably think, okay, it's a spring, it's not springing, that's what they will say, right? But you need to explain to them what is springiness means. You do a simple bite and then release it and then get a feel of that, and then that is the springiness, things like that. So that needs to be worked out with them. Uh, and panelists rate each of the selected attributes according to the standard scale. According to the standard scale, they need to evaluate the attributes according to standard scales, because that's what the training is all about. If you get trained them well, they will do a quality job for your sensory analysis. Rating test. So it's a 5 scale. Yep. So you can do either 9-point scale or 5-point scale. Typically, a lot of people do 5-point scale. Sometimes they do 9-point scale also. So rating a food samples according to scale to find out the degree of preference for each food sample, it's very important. So if they say 5, like a lot, if it is 1, dislike a lot, obviously there is no 0 here. No. 3 is a 0? No. This 0 means, okay, that's one way to think about it also. 0 means they have no opinion. They are neutral, right? But that's what you meant by neutral, means you said 0. But when I say 0, what I meant by was it's not even worth rating it. It's not even worth rating it. Because dislike a lot is 1, but doesn't mean that I don't even like it, right? Here it says I dislike a lot, but meaning that that person can still eat that, right? It's not that they are saying that I will be throwing it out, right? They can still eat that, but they dislike it. I mean, we do a lot of things, right? It's not that we do whatever we like it. We do a lot of things just for the to be collegial with our neighbors, our friends and things like that. If they ask us to come for a tea or something, even if you don't want to drink a tea, you just go with them, right? So that you become friendly with them, and sometimes when you ask them, they will come with you, whatever you want to do. So something like that. So you need to prepare the food samples, ask each tester to test each sample in turn, and tick a box from 1 to dislike very much to the very much 5 preference. So this is 5-point scale. Sometimes a 9-point scale is used. Lot of times these days when you call customer service for something, they always do the 5-point scale. Sometimes they also have a 0 also there. So tester may also wish to make remarks about the product's appearance, taste, color, odor and texture. So you can give a separate place for them to comment about it. Any questions? Can I involve you in your discussion, ma'am? I'm just asking. You guys are discussing yourself, so you can involve me also. No? Okay. No, I hope I didn't disturb you, but you are fine. As we started our discussion back on Monday, the texture is a very complex parameter, very complex. Even with the instrument measurement, it can be as complex as, because when you do too many testing, it may complicate the things. So at the same time, sensory properties, it may seems like a straightforward, but they involve more complexity. It's not as much straightforward. The only thing straightforward I can think of is this hardness, firmness and softness. That's why in the beginning I said that texture profile analysis give you a lot of information, but the only information I trust is hardness value. Everything else is, to me, it's a subjective test. Other than hardness and firmness or softness, it's still not known exactly whether the human being reacts to physical stress or to strain, how to simulate with the instruments the high strain rates experienced in the mouth. Consideration very important with the viscoelastic material. So as much as we can help them to understand, but again, as a human being, we cannot really correlate, we cannot really relate what the instrument does and then what we are trying to do. That's one of the drawback of the sensory analysis, and also the its complexity is involved. So, a lot of times whenever we get these textural characteristics evaluated with the sensory panel, we need to put a lot of salt into it, grain of salt, in terms of understanding that. The oral cavity, that plays a bigger role. The physiology, although some texture assessment performed visually, the main evaluation occurs within the mouth, right? I mean, we do evaluate the color, appearance and everything, but a lot of things happening within the mouth itself. So, when you look at the mouth, there are plenty of components here, plenty of sensors here, a lot of sensing things here, which does too many sensing ability. That has a lot of ability to sense a lot of different things, but that cannot be done in the instrument. There is no instrument can really this many sensing abilities. If you apply a force, it can deform. If you deform, you can measure the stress like that. That's maximum it can go, but this is too many. So, there is no single or specific receptors for texture because of its multi-parameter nature. Some textural parameters are felt when the food is first placed in the mouth. So, as soon as you put it in the mouth, depending upon the product itself, sometimes they get disintegrated and they start dissolving in your mouth. So, immediately as soon as you put it in the mouth, then you can realize that what kind of food it is. And you can really tell what it is like that compared to before you even biting it. For example, yogurt and all, yogurt, ice cream and all, you just put it there, they dissolve, and then you have a ranking going, and you just evaluate it as soon as you put it in the mouth. So, those are the things. So, those are things very important. I mean, you can get the answer immediately when you look at those kind of foods, right? Like for example, crunchiness, all you have to do is just bite it, or just one bite, you get the sound. If the sound is good, you say it's a very good crunchy product. I like it. I like to eat it more, like that. Most are perceived when the food is deformed and chewing with the teeth, manipulated and moved by the tongue around the oral cavity and mixed with the saliva. So those are all perceived notion we try to deliver. So, consumer and texture. The researchers combined their backgrounds in food science, sociology and consumer testing to develop some general principles applicable to understanding consumers' likes and dislikes and guiding the product development work. That's what the researchers does. We play sociology and consumer testing play a bigger role in terms of developing general principles. A lot of techniques used were in-depth consumer interviews. This type of studies should be repeated to identify what changes in consumer thinking about texture might have occurred in the intervening years to the changing lifestyle, changing food habits, greater sophistication of consumers and greater appreciation in food industry of the positive and sellable aspects of texture. So, these are some of the important information you need to consider when you try to interview the consumers, and so that we know that what kind of things they are expecting, and we can train our panelists so that they can focus on the consumer, what consumer want it, so that panelists can look for those characteristics. So, some of the factors shaping the attitudes to texture, the sensory panels, physiological factors play a bigger role, age, right? If you older people, they have different perception, younger people have a different perception. So depending upon what product you are trying to test, and you need to see where who is going to consume that. So based upon that, your panelists you need to select. Age is important. Gender is also important. Male have a different preference. Female has a different preference. And also number of taste buds people have, that also plays a role. So in the interview process, you need to understand whether, if I am going to be a panel, I need to be asked whether I can differentiate between sweet and bitterness and things like that. If you ask me to be a panelist, I will be the worst panelist, because I know that anything you give it to me, I will eat it. So that is a bad panelist, right? That's who I am. I cannot really differentiate whether the food is good or bad. As long as I can eat it, I will eat it anything you give it to me. I will drink it anything you give it to me. In more realistic sense, I'm telling, that's who I am. So I cannot be a really good panelist. I cannot really differentiate between the good and bad. I always say everything is good. It's okay. Life is good. I'm getting some energy. I'm able to consume it. My stomach is good. I can get up tomorrow morning. My new day is starting. That's who I am, right? But you don't want the people like that as a panelist. You want a people who can differentiate. My wife is the best panelist because she can differentiate everything. Each and everything she'll say, this is good, this is bad, this could be better this way. I mean, these are all very positive I'm saying, So we always, if somebody asks me, if me and my wife go to somebody's place, and then if they ask me, Muthu, how do you like it? And then my wife said, you don't want to ask that question to him. He will say everything is good, so don't even ask him. Just give it to him, he will eat it, life is good, you will be happy. And the more important thing is, because I cannot differentiate, I cannot appraise people, I cannot price them. I cannot say them, okay, food is great. Because then it's a lie, right? If I say food is great, and then my wife say it's less salt, that is a big problem, right? Their result, I will get caught. They will say, okay, no, Muthu, you are lying. To the core. I said, I'm not lying. I'm just telling you what I think it is. Why you need to worry about that, right? Yeah, but your wife said salt is less in salt. Yeah, but that's your opinion, right? I'm okay. I didn't throw the food in the garbage. Less salt doesn't matter. Even more salt, it doesn't matter. Because I was in the mess 2 days ago. What did I eat? I ate some. They gave me an omelette. So that is very salty. But I said, okay, I don't want to waste it. It's not worth throwing it out, because the other food I can reduce the salt, but it's what it is. At least we can put the salt if I needed more. But the more salt is a bad thing. But I completed it. I don't like to waste. That's who I am. So I cannot be a good panelist. No, I can differentiate. But what I'm saying is, I cannot complain. No, but again, but again, I just want to give it to the example. That's what I'm saying. But it doesn't mean that my wife always complains everything. But correct. Yeah, but it's differentiating exactly. Yeah, but that's what I need to say. She can differentiate. I can differentiate, but I'm okay with that. I don't have to really say that one way or other way. So psychological factors, very important. This is where we are talking about psychology. Same thing what I talked about now. This is all about psychology. How I feel, and the taste bias, very important. A like, a dislike that is linked to past positive or negative experience. Previous experience, some people have big deal about it. And people always brand things. That's also a bad thing. You cannot brand every time. I mean, I cannot say, Muthu, you are always like that, means then why you need to worry about it, right? So you cannot really brand people like that. So if you have some people like that, they cannot be a good panelist, right? They need to have positive thinking and they need to have fresh mind so that panelist will have a significant impact on the process we are trying to do. Cultural factors also play a big role. Religious practice, lifestyle, and holiday traditions. Big deal. I have been traveling quite a bit. Wherever I go, people always say, you are from India? Okay, you don't eat anything. You eat only vegetables and fruits. Because they brand me saying that you are from India, you should be Hindu and you should be not eating any meat. No meat at all. This is what, if you are Hindu, you cannot eat any meat. That's a branding, you know. So they assume that this is what people do, you know. This is what the people do. But I have to explain to them, no matter what it is, don't worry about me. You give me anything, I'll eat it. You give me anything, I'll drink it, no issues. I drink, I eat. When I say drink, I meant drink, you know. So sometimes they don't understand. They think, oh no, you cannot eat meat, you cannot drink, you cannot. I mean, I don't smoke. You cannot smoke. So those are all religious practice. People think that if you are this practice, you have to be hardcore person. Doesn't have to be, right? Because people differentiate differently. Some people will say it's okay to eat egg, right? Some people will say no, egg is also non-vegetarian. Egg is not a vegetarian. Some people, oh, it's not. You are not killing any animals. Then you are okay. You can eat egg. There are people who eat fish, right? West Bengal, right? They eat fish. But if you ask anybody, fish will be considered as a non-vegetarian, right? In that religion, it is okay. It's only vegetarian. It's not non-vegetarian, because they differentiate from fish and their staple food and the chicken or beef or pork or lamb or goat, things like that. So those are all called animals. Fish is not considered animal from their point of view, right? Because it's a pet. I mean, it's a pet. I mean, there's a lot of people grow fish for appearance in their home and things like that. So for them, it's okay. I mean, so okay. Let's come back to the texture now. How do we do the texture analysis in sensory wise? We like to mimic what we do in the instrument. That's the bottom line, right? So we need to tell the sensory panel, do this way and tell us what do you think it is. I think that's what we are talking about, the training of the panelist. Place the sample between molar teeth and bite down evenly, evaluating the force required to compress the food. What kind of resistance you are offered, that's what you are going to tell us. Don't hurry yourself. Just put the piece of material, whatever you are evaluating, between the molar teeth and the bite down evenly. Slow movement and tell us what kind of resistance you see. That's what the hardness is going to say, how hard the material is, how soft it is. So that needs to be trained with the panel. Cohesiveness, place the sample between the molar teeth, compress and evaluate the amount of deformation before rupture. Very hard to do, right? If you put it under molar teeth and then you are telling compress it, don't rupture it, and then tell me how much deformation went. Come on. You can do better than this. I mean, you tell me how taste it is, I will tell you. Why you want to do all these things? For what? You have instrument, do it and you get the number. Don't tell me these things, you know. So it's a hard thing, but if you really want a quality data, you need to train your panelist. Springiness, place the sample either between molar teeth or between tongue and palate and compress partially, remove force and evaluate the degree and speed of recovery. Again, spring back as if it's elastic material, spring back. So you cannot give this to a panelist who are fast eater. The person has to be a lot of patience where they do slow biting and slow release, so and feel for it. So these kind of things, if you really want to get a quality data from this kind of testing, you have to do a lot of training. Day after day, get people trained and then pay them well, they are helping you down the road. Otherwise, after doing all the training and all, they may run away if you don't keep them. I mean, you need to bribe them, you need to provide them resources, you need to appreciate their hard work. Otherwise, you'll be losing panelists left and right. They will run away. I mean, they may not come back. They will find other opportunities to do it, right? So, adhesiveness, place the sample on tongue or press it against the palate and evaluate the force to remove it with the tongue. So, anything sticking to the teeth, then see whether you need to, how much force you need to apply to take it out. These are all something we are talking about is only between the teeth, as if you are mimicking your instrument test, nothing else. Fracturability, place the sample between the molar teeth, bite down evenly until sample crumbles, evaluate the force with which sample moves away from the teeth. I am not sure about the definition at all here. We thought the fracturability is all about the internal structural failure. That is what the fracture occurs inside and that gets sensed in the load cell in the probe. So, it could be very difficult for the fracture. Gumminess, place sample in mouth and manipulate with the tongue against the palate, evaluate amount of manipulation necessary before sample disintegrates. I think that's probably easy to do. Gumminess is relatively easy to do compared to fracturability or springiness like that.
So we can place the food in our mouth and we can make that compression amount. But how will we get that amount of food or that number when we are doing that?
That's what I'm saying. It's very difficult to get the right number. It's just how the panelists, what panelists think, you just trust them what they are going to give you.
So it's like similar to a scale of 10 and they are giving some number like that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, whether you use 9-point scale or 5-point scale, you still need to use 9-point scale or 5-point scale only. But your descriptions may be different, right? If you look at the like, dislike like that, these things will not be sufficient, will not be appropriate for doing the texture measurement.
I think there's a standard based on which they give the numbers.
Correct, yeah, exactly. So you need to have differentiations in terms of hardness, springiness, fracturability, gumminess and things like that. And then accordingly they can take, again they are going to pick one number only out of all the numbers you are going to give it to them. Other questions?
Sir, like this gumminess, springiness, texture kind of things, we are doing it by trained people.
Yeah.
We can also do it with this instrument, what is there. But coming to the flavor, is there any instruments to measure the flavors?
Bless you. There are instruments, sensors, you can use it, electronic nose, things like that. But again, they have their own limitations in terms of how well they can differentiate. I'm not very familiar with there is a lot of electronic nose out there available, but I never worked with any of them, personally speaking. but there's a lot of information available in the literature. You may want to look into that, what is available, and see whether you really want to get any one of those. But there are a lot of electronic noses. People developed them and tested them, and they have been using it for a lot of evaluations, sensory evaluations.
Electrical nodes only can give only the results which are already flavorable compounds. They can't give us the new results. No, sir, if there will be like new flavor compound in our food, they can't give us that result.
No, they cannot, because that's what I'm saying. Whenever you have instruments, that needs to be calibrated with the standards. So they can only talk about those standards what already used for calibration, and that's the bottom line, right? I mean, obviously, for all good reasons, they cannot come up with some new information without knowing what they are evaluating. So that needs to be verified also. That needs to be incorporated with the new e-nose. If you have new flavor you want them to test, then you need to have standards for that and put the information into the computer or the system so that they can evaluate for that type of flavor. That's a very good point. I mean, yes. Particular time for sensory evaluation? Yeah, I mean, that's why time plays a bigger role also, and also what kind of incidents the panelists had exposure before they come to panel meetings and all. Because if they are not in good mood to really focus on the work in hand, you may get faulty results, faulty information. So that's important. And also, if you look at the sensory evaluation centers, where they are asked to sit, how they get the product and stuff, all these are all standard things they do. It's there in their sensory evaluation labs. They have a specific square footage, specific volume of their cubicle, and specific stools, chairs, things like that, and specific height and specific lighting. So ambience should be there, so that every time they do these evaluations, they are in the same environment. Both the temperature, relative humidity conditions will be set, and they need to provide the right environment so that they can test them appropriately. And also there should not be any human intervention when they get the samples for testing. So that's always there's an opening there, and then that's how they get the samples delivered to them. They don't see anybody who is bringing the sample. So those things are very standardized procedure they follow for doing the evaluations, during the evaluation process. That's a very good point. I mean, yeah, but that's a very, the question is, if somebody is hungry and then they come and evaluate your sample, how that will affect their final evaluations. I think those are all part of the panelists' training. They give it to them, saying that make sure that you eat this much. You make sure that you eat this much food. If you are hungry, make sure that you have something to eat. Come prepared. Don't come hungry, so that everybody is in the same page. Things like that. Only so much they can train, but again, at the end of the day, when time comes, how much they follow and do things, God only knows. That's it? Yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, no, yeah, that is true. I mean, they need to have molar teeth in place. If they don't have molar teeth, they need to be truthful, saying that I don't have molar teeth. I am not fit for the panelist. That's what I myself said, right? Don't pick me as a panelist. I cannot differentiate. So that should be there, and we need to make sure that they are able to differentiate things for whatever we are asking them to evaluate. If it is a color, they cannot be color blinded. If it is a flavor component, they need to be able to differentiate different flavor components. So those are all very good points. I mean, it's hard work. It's not like instrument, you know. You can at least get the instrument and then calibrate it and ready to go, get the numbers. Well, they always have the neutralization liquid, they give it to them. They will make sure that you wash. What is that? Oh yeah, they always give the water also. There's always water is there, and they always tell them that do not eat this food. It is only for evaluation purpose. Once you bite it, you know what is your point rating would be, then you just spit it out. And then you wash your mouth with your water and spit it out also. But again, it all depends upon also what product they are evaluating also, what they are evaluating for, right? If they are evaluating for the sweetness or if they are evaluating for the product flavor and things like that, sometimes they have to swallow. That's the only way they can get the right information, right answers, right feedback. So that needs to be done.
Yeah, I've read in literature that during these tests, first of all, they need to clean their mouth. After the test they have done, suppose they are going for the second, they have to clean their mouth. They have to have a carrot piece. They eat it, they chew it out. They clean with the water. Then they do the sensory.
Yeah, I mean different companies does things differently. There is no standards for everything, but as long as they follow the same procedure for all the sensory evaluations, and that's what it's important from my point of view. Any other questions?
Sir, actually I have come here towards a jaw-like texture analysis. Can that be also used for this kind of sensory evaluation? Like what, I mean texture using the sensory methods. Can that be used? And what's your opinion about that? I just even for this question.
Yeah. Oh, what she is saying is there are some attachments, jaw-like attachments. You can put it in the. Yep. Yeah, it's also from the texture technologies. So they have a jaw-like attachment to the probe and all, and then they are trying to mimic how the smaller teeth is puncturing the food and things like that. As long as they do the similar things, it's nothing going to be different for that matter. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's going to comparative evaluations only. It's not the individual product evaluation, right? So there will be a control always, and then there will be always treatment followed by that. So in that process, I don't know whether smaller the attachments and all they are doing it. It is nice to have it so that the companies will know that, oh, this is a new way of doing things, but I am not sure how much different that attachments will give in terms of the actual results you are going to get. It's probably very comparable to normal test also, because these days these companies, these equipment manufacturers, instrument manufacturers, they need to come up with the new ideas, new way of thinking, new way of finding the solutions. So that could be the reason. But I am not aware of that. I am just looking at first time. So with instrument analysis, whether you are getting higher number or lower number with the teeth and all, at the end of the day, you are comparing between samples only, right? So always have a control and then with the other treatment samples. So I'm not sure how much it is going to be affecting. Maybe time will tell, because if more people are getting the instrument like that, then everybody will be thinking that, okay, we need to get the same thing. I mean, if they can prove that, that will have a difference in terms of final evaluation. Any other questions, thoughts? Yes, Bija.
The use by date or best before date which is set for the particular product, is it also depends on the sensory properties, or it only the laboratory test?
It is primarily laboratory test, bless you, primarily laboratory test. It's nothing to do with sensory analysis, because the sensory analysis is not done for the life of the product.
But the taste may get changed after a few months.
It may get changed if you go past the expiration date. If they go past the expiration date, the taste may go change. But again, it all, yes.
I think that the use by date and best before date is based upon that best before date, which gives that after that date some sensory properties may get changed, but there may not be there might not be so much of effect in the quality parameters. So
No, that's true. But what I'm saying is, these products, they don't come to market after the best by date, right? I mean, let's say you are manufacturing a product now, you don't do the evaluation after 1 year and then make sure that the taste is there, and then you deliver the product to the market. You don't do that, right? So the best by date is primarily based upon what is in the product and what is their shelf life, predicted shelf life, not actual shelf life, predicted shelf life. Some products you can put them in the freezer or you can put them in the refrigerator, even though those products can be set in the room temperature to make it safer, make it higher shelf life. You can store them in the refrigerator or freezer, but still they will be available, still they will be good even after the expiration date. There are some products, food products, you can do that also. I have done it many times by myself. Snacks and things like that. I typically keep them in this cold, low humidity, cold storage place, so that low temperature, so it has a higher shelf life. But again, it also depends upon what is the temperature and humidity conditions in your environment where the products are getting stored. Meat products, obviously, week or 2 weeks will be good in the refrigerator. But on the other hand, if you put them in the freezer, it can stay there for 3 months or 6 months, and you want to make sure that you use them within 6-month period. Otherwise, you will get the frost bite and things like that. Then you don't get the freshness of the product. So those are all also issue. Most of the time, the medicines and all, liquid medicines, like for example cough syrup and things like that, it come up with a 1-year warranty. If you put it in the refrigerator, it can be there for 2 years or 3 years. They don't lose their quality. But again, it's all more product specific. Not all the products can be same, and not all the products can be used after the expiration date. In fact, I have seen some of the product, they go bad even before the expiration date. I wonder myself, is it somebody faked it or what is going on here? Oh yeah, environmental conditions, transportations, how it got transported, what kind of conditions went through, packaging also plays a role. So there is a lot of ifs and buts everywhere. Very good discussion. Okay. Questions?
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
SDSU, how do you test the sensory evaluation? Are there any institutes for that?
No, we don't have any institute for that in SDSU. It's just typically it's just whoever is available, they come and test them and then give their scores. And I don't think anybody even report them in terms of scientifically they tested these things. I mean, until otherwise you test them scientifically, you cannot even report them. But just for curiosity, they probably do that so that they have a sensory panel. So, yeah.
I'm just asking about your perception.
Yeah.
Whether you rely on
Very good question. I'm an engineer, so I like to go with the numbers I get in the instrument. Nothing against the sensory panel, but it's a lot of work with the sensory panel, and I may not be convinced myself that I have the group of representative panelists who does quality job with their feedback, their scoring system.
But so like instruments can smell like there's bad smell in our food. Like we can measure that. Obviously only human can do like that. It is bad or good.
No, 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 no. I understand. But what I'm saying is, if you have a bigger data pool, I can take that. But if it's only 5 people, 10 people, or 8 people doing that panel evaluations, then I'm not sure how good those data is. So that's what my thought process is. And plus we are small universities, so it's very difficult to find trained panels. And plus we are not food industry, right? And I cannot spend more resources in training them and getting the data. And we are not trying to do product development. We are trying to share our scientific inventions and share the information with the peers. Because I am an academician, that's what I like to do. In fact, I think most of the universities also, even nowadays, they like to see more commercialization. When people develop something or some new ideas come, they want to make sure that they can make money out of that. In the whole process, what happens is students, they don't get the credit what they deserve. They may not be able to publish their work or go to conferences and present the results. So they may get penalized in the whole process. So that's why I never thought that whatever ideas here I have is I like to get monetary benefit, where I want to commercialize this product, I want to make more money and things like that. So because students come first for me, and that's why I continue to be in the academic field, and that's why I don't want to really protect anything. You see what I'm saying? There's no secrecy here, right? I mean, we are not politicians where we need to have secrecy, we need to be diplomatic, right? What's the big deal? I mean, at the end of the day, if you are awake tomorrow morning, that's what it is, right? If you are happy today, tomorrow you come, try to be yourself and be as happy as possible. Life goes on, right? So that's what my philosophy is. So I don't know if it's true, whether it's good or bad, but doesn't matter.